37. The danger of overthinking. How to escape the prison of your mind. Does the landscape of your own mind feel familiar? Almost too familiar? Like a room you've been in for so long you know every crack in the ceiling, every stain on the carpet. You lie awake at 3 in the morning, not because of a noise outside, but because of the noise inside. The relentless committee meeting in your skull, replaying a conversation from yesterday, rehearsing a confrontation for next week, drafting and redrafting the story of who you are, what you've done wrong, and all the things you must do to finally get it right. You feel the exhaustion of it in your bones. A weariness that has nothing to do with physical labor and everything to do with the 100,000 miles you travel each day without ever leaving your chair. You've been told this is a problem, a disorder. You've been given names for it: anxiety, rumination, obsessive thinking. You've been handed a toolbox with 5 easy steps, with 7 new habits, with 10-minute meditations designed to quiet the storm. And you've tried, oh, how you have tried. You've tried to wrestle the thoughts to the ground, to silence the inner critic, to force your mind into a state of serene emptiness. And in doing so, you have only become more exquisitely aware of the noise, more frustrated by the chatter, more convinced that you are somehow broken, defective, a flawed machine in a world of smooth operators. But what if I were to suggest something else entirely? What if that relentless, worrying, overanalyzing mind of yours is not a sign that you are broken, but a sign that you are exquisitely, painfully awake? What if this so-called prison is not a prison at all, but a watchtower? And from this high vantage point, you are simply seeing the game for what it is, and your mind is frantically trying to calculate the rules of a game that has no rules. What if your exhaustion is not a symptom of your weakness, but of your integrity? The profound fatigue that comes from trying to make sense of a world that has cheerfully agreed to make no sense at all. You see, from the moment you were born, you were enrolled in a school you never asked to attend. The curriculum is vast, but the primary subject is always the same: calculation. You were taught to calculate your next move. You were taught that life is a ladder, and you must calculate the distance to the next rung. You were taught that happiness is a destination at the end of a long and complicated roadmap, and you must plot your course with meticulous care. You were taught to measure your worth against the achievements of others, to tally your successes and failures in a ledger book kept in your soul. The entire society is a grand conspiracy of measurement. We measure time in agonizing seconds and ambitious 5-year plans. We measure wealth in numbers that flicker on a screen. We measure intelligence with standardized tests and social status by the brand of car you drive or the number of followers you have. We have chopped the seamless, flowing river of existence into bite-sized, manageable, calculable chunks. And we have been told, with the utmost seriousness, that the purpose of life is to accumulate as many of these chunks as possible. The world says, think ahead, be prepared, don't just live, strategize. And your magnificent mind, the most powerful tool in the known universe, said, okay, and it began to think, it began to strategize, it began to prepare. It became the perfect student in this global academy of anxiety. It learned to dissect the present moment for clues about the future. It learned to examine the past for mistakes to avoid. It became a master strategist, a brilliant chess player in a game where the board changes shape with every move, and the pieces have a will of their own. So when you lie awake at night, your mind spinning through 1,000 what-ifs, you are not malfunctioning. You are performing the exact task you were trained to do with terrifying proficiency. Your anxiety is not a chemical imbalance. It is the logical conclusion of the belief that you are a separate ego, a fragile little me adrift in a hostile universe, responsible for navigating your own safety and securing your own happiness by sheer force of intellect. Your overthinking is the sound of the engine overheating because you've been told to drive at 100 miles an hour in first gear for 40 years. The problem isn't the engine. The problem is the insane demand being placed upon it. The collective is not ill because it is calm. It is calm because it is sedated. It has accepted the game without question. It has learned to hum along to the muzak in the elevator without ever asking where the elevator is going. Your pain, your restless mind, is the sound of you refusing to hum along. It's the beautiful, terrible sound of a consciousness that is starting to wake up inside the machine. This is where the great reversal happens. This is the moment you stop seeing your so-called affliction as a curse and begin to see it as a kind of perception, a strange and difficult gift. Let us look at the things you've been told are wrong with you and turn them over in our hands like ancient coins until we see the other side. You have been told that you think too much because you are insecure. But what if your mind is simply a highly sensitive instrument designed for a subtle world that has been placed in an environment of deafening noise and jarring contradictions? You see the gap between what people say and what they do. You feel the dissonance between the smiling masks and the frightened eyes behind them. You sense the hollowness in the rituals that are meant to be meaningful. Your mind is not creating problems out of thin air. It is detecting the thousands of tiny, invisible fault lines in the reality you've been presented. It's like a seismograph registering tremors that no one else seems to feel. They call you anxious. A more accurate word would be perceptive. Your mind is trying to solve an equation where the variables are lies, and it keeps getting an impossible answer. So it runs the calculation again and again and again. The insanity is not in the calculation, it's in the data it's being fed. You have been told that your overthinking is a quest for control, born of fear. This is true, in a way, but let's look deeper. It is a quest for a solid floor in a universe that is fundamentally fluid. You are trying to find certainty. You are trying to nail down the future, to secure the perimeter of your life, to build a fortress of plans and contingencies that will protect you from the beautiful, terrifying chaos of existence. The overthinking mind is like a builder who is trying to construct a brick house on the surface of a flowing river. It is an exhausting, impossible, and deeply logical task, given the premise that a solid house is what one needs. The rest of the world seems to be content with their inflatable rafts, drifting along, pretending they have control, ignoring the current. You, in your frantic building, are the only one honoring the true depth of the uncertainty. You have taken the universe at its word, that it is vast and unpredictable, and you are trying to find a foothold. The liberation does not come from building a stronger fortress. It comes from the breathtaking realization that you don't need a fortress because you are not the builder. You are the river. And then there is the map. From a young age, we are handed a map of the world, a map of success, a map of love, a map of a good life. We are told, here is the territory. Memorize it. Follow the approved routes. But you, the overthinker, you looked at the map, and you looked at the world, and you said, wait, this is not the same. The map is a neat, tidy grid of lines and labels. The world is a tangled, breathing, unpredictable wilderness. So you dedicate yourself to making a better map, a more accurate map. You spend your days and nights in your head, drawing, annotating, calculating elevations, predicting weather patterns. Your overthinking is the sound of obsessive cartography. You are trying to create a perfect one-to-one scale model of reality in your mind so that you will never be lost. But in doing so, you have forgotten the most important thing. The map is not the territory. And your entire life has become about studying the map, while the wild, beautiful territory is waiting just outside the door. The tragedy is not that your map is flawed. The tragedy is that you have mistaken the map for the journey itself. The freedom comes when you are willing to fold up the map with all its brilliant calculations and terrifying warnings and take one single uncertain step into the actual landscape, to feel the real ground under your feet. Think of it this way: life is a piece of music. The purpose of music is not to get to the end of the song. If it were, the best conductors would be those who play the fastest. The point is the listening, the experiencing of it, note by note. But our society has taught us that life is a race to the final crescendo. And so the overthinking mind is like a musician who cannot enjoy the chord being played now because they are too busy worrying about the next one, and the one after that, and whether they will hit the final note correctly. It is a musician who is constantly practicing scales, but is too afraid to ever simply play. Your mind is stuck in a perpetual warm-up for a performance that is already happening. This very moment, this breath. This is the music. Your frantic mental activity is the sound of you trying to get the music right, instead of simply allowing yourself to be the music. The liberation is to realize you are not the musician who must perform perfectly. You are the instrument through which the music of the universe is playing itself. And at the very center of this prison of thought, who is the prisoner? Who is this I that is doing all this thinking? This me who is so worried, so anxious, so in need of control? When you look for it, really look, what do you find? You find a collection of memories, a bundle of habits, a story you've been telling yourself for decades. The thinker is a thought. The ego, this little self you're trying so desperately to protect, is a phantom constructed out of language. It is a persistent illusion, and overthinking is its primary activity. The ego maintains its existence by constantly creating and solving problems. I am worried about my job reinforces the idea of a me who has a job. I need to figure out my relationship confirms the existence of a me who is in a relationship. The constant chatter is the sound of the ghost haunting its own house, rattling chains to remind itself that it exists. When you overthink, you are simply feeding this ghost, making it stronger, more solid, more real. And the ghost rewards you with more fear, because fear is its favorite food. It convinces you that without its constant vigilance, its endless strategizing, you will perish. But you won't. What perishes is the ghost itself. When you cease to identify with the stream of thought, when you learn to watch it flow by without being carried away by the current, the ego begins to starve. It has nothing to do, no problems to solve, no future to secure, and it begins to dissolve. And what is left when the ghost is gone? At first, there might be a silence, not an empty silence, but a vast, spacious one. It is the silence of a room after a loud machine has been turned off, and you only realize how much noise it was making now that it's gone. You begin to notice things you were too busy to see before. The way the light falls on a wall, the taste of your coffee, the feeling of the air on your skin. You are no longer living in the commentary about your life. You are living your life. The constant need for a plan fades away, not because you become irresponsible, but because you develop a deeper trust in the process. You realize that the oak tree does not become a mighty oak by worrying about its 5-year plan. It becomes an oak by being a perfect acorn, and then a perfect sapling, and then a perfect young tree. It responds to the sun and the rain and the soil of the present moment. You learn to live in the same way. You do what the moment requires with your full attention, and you trust that the next moment will emerge from this one. You stop trying to control the river and you learn to steer. The loneliness you might have felt, the sense of being an alien among your own kind, begins to transform. Yes, a certain kind of solitude may remain. When you stop playing the game of collective anxiety, you may find you have less in common with the other players. Their frantic conversations about the future and their regrets about the past will start to sound like a foreign language. But this is not the painful loneliness of isolation. It is the dignified solitude of integrity. It is the quiet strength of the mountain that is not lonely, but simply stands, solid and present, while the clouds of the world's worries drift by. You will find a new kind of power, not the brittle power of control and manipulation, but the resilient power of acceptance and surrender. The power to feel fear without becoming the fear. The power to feel sadness without drowning in it. The power to experience the full, chaotic, heartbreaking, ecstatic spectrum of human life without needing to tame it or explain it away. You stop being a victim of your thoughts and feelings, and you become the silent, compassionate witness to them all. You realize that you are not the waves tossed about by the storm. You are the deep, still ocean beneath. The waves come and go. The storms pass. But the ocean remains. So the next time you feel the gears of your mind beginning to grind, the next time the committee convenes for its emergency late-night session, try something different. Do not fight it. Do not resist it. Do not berate yourself for it. Simply notice it. Watch the thoughts as if they were clouds floating across the vast blue sky of your awareness. There goes a worry cloud. There goes a planning cloud. There goes a memory cloud. You don't have to climb into them. You don't have to make them go away. Your only task is to be the sky, vast, open, and untouched. Ask yourself gently, what is this thought trying to protect me from? What illusion is it trying to maintain? Don't look for an answer in more thoughts. Look for the feeling beneath the thought, the raw, physical sensation in your body. Breathe into that. Be with that. That is the territory. The thought is just the map. You are not broken. You are not malfunctioning. Your overthinking mind is not your enemy. It is a compass, spinning wildly because it is finally getting close to true north. It is the pangs of a great awakening. You are simply remembering something you have known all along. That you are not the frantic little thinker trapped in your head. You are the silent, spacious awareness in which all of that thinking occurs. And in that space, in that silence, is not a prison, but a freedom so profound it has no name. It is the freedom to simply be here, now.